Hello friends, so welcome to this lecture on how NSG rules are evaluated. In the last lecture we discussed about the NSG format and the by default rules created. NSG rules evaluation is very crucial and very important concept, so that is why I would request you to please pay attention to this, that okay, how the rules are evaluated. And still, if you will not be able to understand in the demo lecture, you'll be having much more clarity, so don't worry about that. In case of in one go you are not able to understand, I would request you to go through the lecture once again. And so before digging into the further, one thing is like you can associate zero, like no network security group, to a particular virtual machine or a subnet, but that is not a recommended practice. Or you can mention the, or you can apply the NSG at a virtual machine level, or you can say at a NIC level. When I'm talking about the virtual machine, it is like at the NIC level, or you can apply the network security group at a subnet level. So in this lecture, we'll discuss how the rules are evaluated. Means if the NSG is evaluated, NSG is applied at the subnet level and at the NIC level, how the packet will be forwarded or the information will be processed. Or let's say if the NIC is not attached at the subnet level but only at the NIC level, then, and if no NSG is that, then how that traffic will be processed. So before digging into the further, let's try to understand which thing will come first, NIC level, I mean the network interface card, or the subnet level. See, the first thing we have already in case of Azure is virtual network. So let's say if the traffic will come from the internet or there is an inbound traffic to a VM, first it will hit at the subnet level and then it will hit at the network interface card level or NIC level. So in that case, if you have a NSG at the NIC level, a subnet level, then it will be evaluated first in case of inbound traffic, and then it will go to the NSG at the NIC level. But let's say if it is a outbound traffic flowing out from your virtual network, then it is evaluated at the NIC level. I mean the NSG which will be evaluated at the NIC level, and then it will evaluate or check if NSG is attached at the subnet level. So this is in general how the traffic flows or packet flows. So let's go back to the previous slide. Just try to pay attention. So if you'll see diagram on the left, we have a virtual network. See this one. And then within the virtual network, we have three subnets, subnet 1, subnet 2, and subnet 3. Then in the subnet 1, we have two virtual machines. And within the subnet 2, we have one virtual machine. Similarly, within the subnet 3, we have one virtual machine. Now we'll discuss about the subnet 1. Forget about the subnet 2 and subnet 3 for a moment. So if you'll see the subnet 1, we'll discuss about the VM first. So if you'll see the VM 1, there is a NSG rule applied at the subnet level, which is NSG 2. And there is a network security group, or you can say NSG applied at the virtual machine level. Now let's say if there is a inbound traffic allowed for port 80, since we discussed that during the inbound traffic will be evaluated at the subnet level. So if you have at the NSG at the subnet level, it will be evaluated first. Now, since we have this NSG at both the levels, subnet level and subnet and the NIC level in case of virtual machine, if the traffic at the NSG 1, which is at the subnet level, is denied for port 80, it will not be passed to the NIC level, even though if the traffic for port 80 is allowed at the NSG2, I mean at the NIC level. So in that case, if the traffic is allowed at the NSG level or the subnet level, let's say NSG1, but denied at the NSG2 level, even then the port 80 traffic for that virtual machine will not be allowed, the inbound traffic. Only if you allow at both the ends, allow port 80 at the NSG level 1 and NSG level 2, then it only be allowed for VM1. Means the rule will evaluate at the subnet level first, NSG1 level. If there is a traffic allowed, it will pass on to the NSG2, and if it is allowing that traffic, it will pass. If it is denying, the packet will be rejected. Now, if we'll come to VM2 in the subnet 1 itself, you can see there is no NSG allowed. So in that case, the traffic for port 80 is allowed because there is no NSG attached, and in that case, it will be passed. Now, in case if you'll come to this subnet 2, or you can say the VM3, you can see that okay, there is no NSG attached at the subnet level. Only NSG which is attached is at the VM level. So in that case, if the traffic, inbound traffic, or you can say port 80 is allowed at the subnet level, it is passed. And in case if it is denied, the packet will be rejected. Because there is no NSG attached at the subnet level, the traffic will be directly passed to the network security group, which is attached at the network interface card level. So in that case, it will process the traffic as per the rules allowed in the NSG2. So there are different scenarios in this case. In case of subnet 1, we have NSG at both level, but in case of VM2, no NSG. In the second scenario, we have the VM3 where NSG is attached only at the NIC level, no NSG at the subnet level. So if you'll see the third scenario, or you can say the fourth scenario for VM4, there is no NSG attached at all, neither at the subnet level and at the uh, NIC level. So in that case, the traffic is allowed by default. So if you'll see the comparison between the VM4 and VM2, in VM, the NSG is attached at the subnet level only. So if NSG says, let's say port 80 traffic is allowed, then it will directly pass to VM2 because there is no rule at NSG. There is no rule at the NIC level. So in this particular diagram, there is no NSG at the subnet level as well as at the NIC level. Here we were having that NSG at the subnet level. So in that case, here there is no restriction to the traffic. Traffic will be passed to the virtual machine, and that is not a recommended practice at all, because in that case you are increasing the exposure to the data. There might be a sensitive data stored onto your virtual machines. So in that case, you should apply the rules accordingly. So these are the different scenarios in this particular lecture. In the first scenario, in the VM1, there are NSG both at the subnet level and at the NIC level. But in case of VM2, NSG is there at the subnet level only. This NSG1, there is no NSG at the NIC level. But in scenario 2, we have the NSG2 at the NIC level or at the VM3 level. But in case of last scenario, there is no NSG at all. So this is it, friends. Hope now you have the clarity that okay, how the traffic is passed. But let's say if there is a outbound traffic, let's say from VM to internet, so in that case it will be evaluated at the NIC level first, and then it will go to the subnet level. It will be vice versa, like we discussed in the this particular slide. So this is it, friends. In this lecture we discussed that okay, if there is a inbound traffic, then it will come at the subnet level first, then at the NIC level, and if it is outbound, it will go through the NIC level first, then to the subnet. And then we discussed how the rules or the traffic is evaluated in case of different scenarios. So this is it, friends, in this lecture. Thank you for watching this lecture. Meet you in the next lecture. Thank you.